we're in this space right now where I'm challenging people to create the world they want to live in. So what started this for you?
What started for me was last summer, watching all of the uprisings following George Floyd's murder and Breonna Taylor's murder. And then watching across social media and in mainstream media how um, there was a 180 right away to ask Black people how white people can be better. How can they be more anti-racist? What can they do to make make our lives better? Help us, educate us, right? I got thousands more followers on my social media. A bunch of Black people did. And a bunch of like really well-meaning white people kept asking us to do more labor. But what I didn't see was a, anybody talking about what Black people needed in that moment
Mm.
and what it feels like to watch yet another Black man who could be my brother, husband, cousin, friend, whatever, be murdered, and know that that murder might be with impunity. To see Breonna, like what does this feel like? How are y'all doing? Um,
Mm,
and I'm friends with Brene Brown, and there's not very many white women I can call friend, like legitimately. And we became, it's a newer friendship, and we weren't talking. We had been nothing to do with the world's issues, just talking about life. And one of the reasons why we're friends is because I really do love her work, and her work had been really important to my work as I was developing it. But and I knew that the tools that she had in her work about dealing with shame and vulnerability and shame resilience are great tools in this moment. In that moment, were great tools for us to use. But what I'd never said to her directly was, I love your work. Your work has helped expand me, but I don't see myself in your work. Or in order to see myself, I have to like squint and, turn my head to the side
look
and
out of the left corner of your right
right,
eye with your foot
really
up.
really imagine, do too much imagining. And she got that. It wasn't the first time she heard it, and she was like, I hear you. um I really want to do better about that. And I was like, well, we could you know tell different stories. And that's kind of how we got here. It just happened really fast, though. I don't think either of us thought, oh, we'll have a book out in 6 months.
Let me tell you, yeah, then and people don't realize, most books take 18 months from
Oh
start to finish
yeah.
to get published. So this is
both
it's a miracle.
both of us are in the middle of writing books that we had to stop to get this book done. So yeah.
I love it. I love it. So Mark Lamont Hill, first of all, congratulations. You are now officially a talking head every night. I was like,
Now.
yeah, I mean, he's hosting, a nightly news show, and I'm really proud of the work that you're doing. How did you get into this? And tell me about Never Too Much. Why that? Why that title?
Well, I got into this because Tarana asked me, honestly. And Tarana and I go way, way, way back. And long before we were doing this kind of work, certainly on this stage, Tarana's been doing this work forever, even when no one was looking. But long before she was doing this, she was in the community. We were in the same city. And we did work, and we showed up for each other. And we grew into a friendship and really a brother and sisterhood. And she's family to me. So it didn't matter what the book was about. If Tarana said, can you do it? I was going to say, yeah. But then I happened to see what it was about. And I was like, oh, this ain't even like a favor. Like, this is actually dope. You know what I mean? Like, I actually am glad to be a part of it. And it was an interesting and challenging book for me because of these themes around vulnerability and shame. And I didn't know where I wanted to go. And Tarana sort of suggested that I think through some issues that were important to me around masculinity, around identity more broadly. And I said, this is an opportunity for me to do something that I don't do a lot of. Although in the last 6 months or a year, I feel like there's been more of it. And that is the kind of personal disclosure, the kind of the picking away at yourself to figure out, how you wrestle with these issues. It's one thing to have a critique of society, a critique of culture. That's what I get paid to do and trained to do. But what this essay forced me to do was to link that to myself. And it wasn't a demand, but it seemed like the right thing to do. And I'm glad I did, because so many authors in this book do that. They start from the place of the self especially a lot of the Black authors, and they start from a place of the self, and they, well, I guess they're all Black authors, but
yeah, I was gonna say, yeah.
I was really thinking of Black male authors as well.
Yeah.
I was thinking about like Kiese, for example, you know, when he's talking about Crazy or you know, Jason Reynolds. I'm thinking about these
Talking
essays
about his mom. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, they're going to some, and I didn't know what they were going to write, but I knew who was, I knew a few of the people that were in it, and I was also like intimidated. Like I write for a living, but I'm not a writer the way like they're writers. Do you get what I'm saying?
I do,
Like,
but you are, and you own a whole
No,
ass
no,
bookstore.
this
So
isn't like
let's not. You come on, Mark.
no, this isn't like I'm dope. I don't think I'm not good, but I'm not Kiese. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what I'm saying. Like I'm talented, but not like them. They're writers. And so I was like, I gotta bring something different this time to at least be in the conversation with them. You know what I'm saying? So that I'm not, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but a lot of it, you know, and I've been kind of sussing this out. A lot of our success is always through a white lens because they're the ones that validate our talent, right? So we have bent and folded ourselves to a standard that to me is not even at the pinnacle of who we are, right? Because we don't get to fully express ourselves. So I applaud this because I know that Tarana Burke is not going to allow you to come any way other than your full self. And that's so it. I know, you know, when Lovey and Imani Perry and these folk are writing, I know that I'm going to get something that's real. So what did you tap into, Mark, that we wouldn't know? And I think it's important, since we have Tarana here, to talk about the master.
Just Karen, I want to say real quick, my name is pronounced Tarana.
I know. I apologize. I introduced you correctly, and then I went left. I do that. I apologize, Miss Burke. I'll make
no, don't do that. Just Tarana is
fine. You know, this masculinity. We're in this space where Black men have to prove. You know, it's like, what does it mean to be a Black man? What does it mean to be a man?
Yeah, I think that's what. So I think that's why I started from this place of me as child. You know, it's a place that I have to interrogate to figure out my own relationships. It's a place I have to interrogate to tell my story. It's a place I interrogate in therapy, right? Is to say like, how'd you get like this? You know, good and bad, all the things, but how'd you get like this? And so for me, part of it was what were my early lessons on what masculinity was, on what manhood was, what identity was. And one of the first things I remember was being a very young Black boy in North Philly, you know, being told that he was too sensitive. And I start the essay with this moment where someone hurt my feelings, and I think I cried. And I remember the conversations that were being had about me, you know, and what it meant to be too sensitive. And it was like a judgment. It was like a reprimand, but it was also an assessment. It was like a judgment, but it was also like a push to be something else. And throughout my life, and like all of us, we get these signals about what masculinity is, what manhood is, and what it isn't. And it's not always told to us. It's often modeled for us. Whether it's what we watch on TV, it's what the men in our lives talk about, what the women in our lives talk about. And for me, this essay, in a lot of ways, is partly a journey through that, right? Talking about how I got this, what the lessons were for me, and what they meant to me. And it was also this moment of saying, all right, I'm not this completed person who now goes out into the world telling other Black men how to be like me. But it's also to say, like, I ain't got this stuff right yet either. I'm not there yet either. And here's some moments where I screwed it up badly, right? But here's what I learned from that as well. And trying to walk through that journey. And of course, never too much for me is two things. One, it's an ode to the great Luther Vandross, the greatest singer, you know, in human civilization.
Facts.
But also it's a way of saying that by the end of this journey, that at least at this stage of the journey, I should say, I'm recognizing myself that it is never too much. That emotionality, that vulnerability, that it's never too much. And in fact, I feel my most whole and my most human. I feel my most healthy when I'm in that space, and I'm no longer using other things to mask it.
I love that. And I again want to thank you, Tarana, for putting this together. No, because we are always kind of chasing these tropes about us or fitting into these boxes, somebody else's creation. And to, you know, even our art, even our, you know, our music and our television and movies, you know, it's very rare that we get to see a sensitive man in a relationship with a, you know, it's like, right, or whatever. And we don't get to see ourselves completely unless it's in comedy, So I think
Yeah.
this is important to, as we move into what does it mean to be an American? What does it
Mm.
mean to live as Black people in America? Who are
Yeah.
we? How do we get to just be? So I love when you started off with no one asked us how we feel or what it feels like.
Yeah. We never get to, I try to tread this carefully because I think this movement towards anti-racism is, it's great. It's useful in many ways. Um, that's not my background. I'm not somebody who was raised to work for white people. I work for my community. And so I'm not validated by how white people think of me. I'm validated by what I do for Black people and how I interact with Black people. And so I've said very, clearly, and when the publisher came, because this was on Brené's publishing company. And so when the publisher came to me and said, we really want to do this book, we're excited, da 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 da. And he said, who do you want to talk to? And I said, Black people. And it's going to seem odd because I got a white lady on the cover with me, but I want to use her tools, but I mean, she has amazing tools and she's done the research. She's here as she is in this project as the expert, right? The person who's done the work and who has, and really, if you talk to her, she uses a wide variety of sampling, in her research. She uses Black people, women of all kind of different people, but she tells the stories of the research through her own experience, which is why I couldn't find myself in it, because she's a white woman from Texas. So when you get a Black girl from the Bronx coming, like, that's not really how it works for me. It's not the same. But I think it's very necessary for people in this moment, while we're excited about anti-racism and excited about doing anti-racism work, to understand that I don't believe that work. I was
going to say, what does that even mean? It's a buzzword. It feels
it,
good.
it's
It
like
sounds
it's
good.
like what's this other word that everybody says now? Intersectionality, which is like, I think intersectionality in its actual meaning is useful and real, and that the theory and all that is real. I think obviously we want you to be the opposite of racist, right? But I also know that if you come to me and you've read the book and listened to the podcast and you follow all the right people on social media, but you haven't engaged with Black humanity, I don't believe your anti-racism work. What is it grounded in? You don't know anything about how Black people move through the world. You don't know anything about how our material lives. So what does it mean to be anti-racist if you can't connect with Black humanity? Right? So that's why, I hope that people who are not Black benefit from this book. I really do. I hope that it provides resources for them to connect with our humanity. But before that happens, I want Black people to pick up this book and read stories that make them say, my gosh, that's me. I've never seen me articulated like this in something that I can walk in Barnes and Noble and buy. I've never seen anybody say this out loud in this way. And I'm so glad because I feel seen, right? Like, that's what I really want.